people who are working for us, divided over 5 departments and 30 sub-departments. And as I said, it is not only about ICT infrastructure, it's also about your social behavior, about the way people manage information, the way people work and interact with cultural content. So what we did is we set up a transversal project structure to make sure that the information retrieval came from the complete organization. It's an organization-wide plan, and people are more motivated when they are from the first day they are involved in the project. So we came up with the structure. We have a steering committee with executive power, a project leader who is the leader who does the daily management of 8 work groups. And these 8 work groups make sure that over a few years of time we really have introduced and really have got our digital plans operational. So you have one on strategy and vision, one on the infrastructure, one on awareness and training for all the other employees, and also for visitors, also for our artists. One of wireless and voice over IP, new applications, automatization of the back office, so everyone is working on the same content on the same servers. VACF and VBA are the two research projects, Virtual Art Center of the Future and Wireless Building Automation. We will come back on those later on. Just one slide on infrastructure. This part is completely finished. So we made sure we have a 10 gigabit network over the building. But since it's a really huge building of 20,000 square meters and we wanted internet connection in all the rooms for our audience and also for artists, we put up a wireless network over it. It has a coverage of 99%, also because the building management system, which connects all the safety systems going from heating, ventilation, air conditioning, lighting, emergency lighting, door control, video surveillance. It's connected with the IP phones, so we need an uptime of 99% all the time and in all the building. We also have information display systems which inform the audience, and these displays get their content immediately from the servers, from the content which is also on the website and in other areas. Research. When I told you, when I let you give you some information on the 8 topics that we are working on, the 2 most important were the 2 last ones, Virtual Art Center of the Future and Wireless Building Automation. But we need partners, partners in the field of technology, companies, but also in the field of academic partners, universities, to help us to understand all the elements and to bring all these things to a good end. Happily in Flanders we have the EBBT. It's the Interdisciplinary Institute for Broadband Technology. And what they do is they bring these 2 partners together in one project. So they fund the academic and the industrial knowledge, and together with 8 partners, you research a certain topic over a certain period. Just a few words on wireless building automation. Wireless building automation is a project which is about building management systems, but which looks into the fact whether we can make them wireless and whether you can just put up buttons, light buttons on the wall, emergency lighting, etc., and they're wirelessly connected. Of course, this is not done with the technologies we know today. Here we looked into Zigbee, where all the nodes are connected with each other and they talk with each other. More important is the first one. That is the one I want to talk to you about today. It's Virtual Art Center of the Future. There were 3 main elements within this research project. One is about the web platform of the future. How does this look? What do we understand of this? A 3D digital platform where you can interact with other people and where you can see cultural content. And customer intelligence based on tagging, based on other known principles. The project started 2 years ago. Today we would say that the website is all about Web 2.0. 2 years ago, the term still had to be invented. Nowadays, we would call it Web 2.0. There are a lot of definitions about what is Web 2.0. My favorite one is this one. Web 2.0 means using the web the way it's meant to be used. But it doesn't say that much. And I think in 10 years from now, we will say Web 25.0 means using the web the way it's meant to be used. So a better definition is one of Norman Lewis, where he says we go from a passive environment to an active environment. We go from applications to the services. The services are more important than the applications you build. From client-server to peer-based topologies. The one-size-fits-all idea that has been living for the last 10 years to websites which gives a personalized environment. And from proprietary, from closed gardens to open source projects. Out of this, we made up 6 rules of Web 2.0. And this is one of my favorite slides because it really tells a lot about what we've been doing. The first one is users added value. Look at eBay, look at YouTube. It are the users who make the application. The application itself is not that complicated, it's quite easy, but it are the users who add value to it. Network effects by default. Let your users create a network. Look at MySpace. It are the users who are creating the network, who are bringing all the content and the people together. It's not the application itself who is doing this. The perpetual beta. Applications, the making of application has become a never-ending story. Also, when we will take a look at our website, you will see that it still has the beta definition on it. This is because we launched it a month ago, but a lot of important parts of it will be launched during the next month. So by August, the beta sign will disappear. But even afterwards, we will launch every few months new applications. It's a bit also the story about which we see within the bigger companies, the old versus the new ones, Google versus Microsoft. Microsoft just launches every few years a new version of their systems. Google launches every week or every few weeks a new version of their programs. Software above a single device. Make sure that your applications can run on different platforms, on different machines, so your users can use the content, can be on your applications on different devices everywhere, anytime. One of the more important ones, data is the next Intel Inside. It is the data, it is your content that makes it different over other websites. So make sure that you have a competitive advantage by creating unique data. And a platform beats an application every time. Reuse the data services of others, which means to make this data competitive. You can't do this within your own organization, so make sure you can also make use of the data of other services of other users. So what does this mean for the customer, for the one who is using your applications? We say the customer is in the driver's seat. We will see this also on the website later on. He's in control of what he wants to see, how he wants to see it, how he wants to structure it, enriches it, shares his information, and how he participates with other users. So the concept is all about putting the user in the middle of everything, and that our website is really user-minded. These 4 elements are the 4 keywords of our website: explore, participate, share, and personalize. Exploring means that you let your people do data mining, that they can use tagging to look for information. Also, the old elements still stay up to date, searching by interest, by suggestions. Participate, digging, let them give a rating of the elements that they saw in real life. Let them write their own reviews, let them add items to their collection. Sharing, it's personal pace, inviting people to groups, inviting other people to be your friends. And personalize, let them have their personal calendar where they can keep track of all the activities that they want to see at your place. An example of a jazz fan, but you probably already read it and it will come back later on. So this goes back to a few of the 6 rules. What we did is that we wanted an open collection where we are not the only one, Verraad and all its employees to fill in the content. but that we also allow our users, our visitors, to add multimedia, to write editorial pieces, reviews, to give ratings, etc. And we also go and look for other interesting websites and try to collect external data from their sites. This is a drawing from Tom Coates. It's rather an old one from 2 years ago. He has been working for the BBC, and this also represents the idea of the data collection, where what we used to see is that you have all these different websites, and they're closed walled gardens where you could not reuse their data. What you see today is that the new Web 2.0 websites allow to aggregate their content, and they reuse their content. So within our website, we used some mature technologies like SOA, Web APIs, XML, RSS feeds to collect the data from others. So it could be that you will see on our website a video stream from YouTube. It could be that we collect pictures from Flickr, that we gather information from Google, and we put it all on our website. Of course, the digital rights management is an important element when you do these things, but we've done some strong research on these topics, and normally we're okay for what we're doing at the moment. An important element here is that you have to try the added value is not by just adding all these elements from other sites, but by combining the right elements from these different sites. So the added value is in your technology, how you get this information from the other sites. Within the 2 years of research, there was a lot of research done by a research group from universities. We have a CEO from University of Leuven, de Micht from University of Ghent, and Smit from University of Brussels. We will not go into the expert interviews because it will take too much time. But if you want, you can read all about the 2 years of research in a book, The Virtual Art Center of the Future. I will show you the web link later on because you can also download it for free. Too bad it's only in Dutch, but perhaps you can find yourself a translator on the internet. So the public service. The first one is done by CUO. It's about the quality expectations. So they asked the questions to a large audience. Imagine that you are a jazz fan and you could listen to concerts, watch a video fragment, keep your own calendar of jazz events, share information, walk around in a 3D environment. What would you say? The funny thing is that our potential users are enthusiastic. They all say no. Or the conclusion is no, they are not enthusiastic. They all say, I'd rather go to a concert with my friends and get tipsy afterwards in the bar and talk to them afterwards about this concert and not on the internet. But the second thing we did afterwards was we put the same users, the same people who we questioned, after a PC, and we showed them our applications. We helped them to understand the possibilities of them, and then they all said not only we're going to use them, but they also were very creative in adding new features like, oh, but why didn't you think about this or that? So there's a big difference between the expectations and from people who built these websites and from the audience really using them. So it's really important that you guide them and that you give them all kinds of elements to help them through this process. Other key findings, what they really like is that you help them making choices. So you show them video, audio trailers. By showing them in advance to you, they can make a better choice whether they want to see the performance, whether they want to see the theater play. They're also interested in seeing and knowing, reading the cultural profile of other visitors, and to see, oh, this guy is interested in this pop concert. Which other concerts is he interested in, and why? Personalizing, so they can save comments, they can save trailers and reviews, so they can view back on them later on, and they don't have to go to the same process of searching and looking where this element was on which page. Must-haves, what they really want to do is also when they're people with children, by example, they don't always have time to go to the concert, so they find it really interesting to follow the concerts online. The quantitative study by TMICT, very shortly, we saw that the environment would encourage 2/3 of the participants to even participate more. So because they get this information, they can make a clearer choice, but they're also tasted to do more things. 2 groups of internet users. We have a lot of groups of internet users, of course, but to make a simple split up, you have the practical ones who use internet to get information. They use it for e-banking, and you have the ones who really use it as an extension of their creative life. You also see this in the adaptation curve that we put up. The pink one is the one we get from theory, and the green one is the one we got out of the VHCF research project. And what we see is that there's a huge potential for innovators and early adopters who are really attracted to these kinds of websites. And this is also important because you have the early majority and late majority, or people who are just interested in gathering information. But of course you need these other people, these innovators and early adopters, who add value, who add content to your website, because if you don't have these users, the other users can't read a review or can't see the extra content that is set up by these innovators. After a month of the website being operational, we see that we have like 20% of people who are really active, who write reviews, who add pictures, and a majority of 80% who are just wandering around and looking around but are not active. So this is more or less in the same idea than the adaptation curve we see over here. The difference between virtual and real participation. We see that 70% of our cultural participants who are on the website also participate in real life. But more interesting is that we see that we have a potential of 30% of new people who have never been in Vooruit, who have never been in our physical environment, but who will be on our website and who will look up content of Vooruit over there. So to us, we see the website more as an extension of our way of working than we see it as than we see the division between real and virtual life. We try to not make this division and to just see at the website and at the digital content as an extension of our way of working. Before we go to the website, I've talked about this before. So you have, we see 3 users. You have the ones who are looking for quick info, just to a fast search, who need direct basic info. You have the ones who go in depth, who look to the content of others, who will look into the pages with rich content. And you have the active users who keep a calendar, save items, tips, reviews, upload videos, etc. I will go to the website now so I can show you a bit more. The website is in Dutch. The English version will be implemented by July. So I should say come all back in July when we have an English version operational. You see here the division between activities, between information and between the community. So the division is over the complete website done in this way. When we go to activities, you can look into all the activities that we have. You see all the activities. You can look into a week, or you can say next week Friday, or you can also say just give me the concerts, or give me Uitgelezen. Uitgelezen is a program, a literature program. There you also see that the context is changing, and more textual and visual information is added, because people who are interested in literature, they're not really looking for an agenda. They're looking more for information. And then you have videos that you can show. about the last literature program. So, going back to concerts, we have, by example, Shellac, an American group, on Thursday. That's good. You see activities, some information, text, and also pictures, audio, and video that is uploaded. You can see the text. If you say, okay, give me all the US groups that are playing at your place, you see all the other groups that are playing. And here you see also the division between what we put up ourselves and what is put up by the community. So you get some short reactions. One who's saying, I have one ticket too much, is anyone interested in my ticket? Or someone who is giving a recommendation on this element. Over here you can see that this is what I want to see, and you have 35 other people who are interested in this concert. So you can see all the users who are interested in this concert. So you can see, oh, Carol, this one seems a nice girl. You can see that I already know her because Carol is a friend. But if I don't like her anymore, so now she's not a friend anymore. You can read something about her. So now we're in the community part. So you can read some texts about her. You can see her calendar, which elements she wants to see in the next weeks. Her own text material that she has written. Photo, audio, and video that she has uploaded herself. And over here, it is quite important, the all rights included, or that it's seems like I clicked on an audio fragment. But over there, it's really important when users are uploading their own material that you make sure that the rights are added in a good way. We make use of Creative Commons, so you have 6 different types of rights that you can add to your picture or your comment. Over a month's time, we see that we had to remove not that much of information which was copyrighted. I think we had to remove like 10 elements. And you can see the text that she's been using, etc. I can go also to my page, so you can see my pictures that I put up myself, my saved items. So this is a concert that I saw 2 weeks ago. On the concert page, I clicked an element. Okay, I wanna keep this information, and you can directly go to the element that you want to keep. So you can wander around if you want, but most of you probably will wait until there's an English version on operation. The second part of the research project was about the 3D environment. This is in cooperation with Workspace Unlimited. These are 2 people from Belgium, but who have been living for a long time abroad in Canada, an artist and an architect. And their vision is they want to connect physical spaces through a virtual environment, and that people can interact in this virtual environment and can explore the poetic possibilities of multiplayer gaming. At the moment, there are 3 sites operational. One is in Montreal in Canada, one in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and one at Verraad in Ghent. At the moment, they also have one in Spain that is operational, and they're putting one up in New York on Ground Zero. So it's not, you cannot visit this environment on a website. But what we did is we connected these 3 spots with some terminals, and at Verraad you can wander around in the virtual world, and you see other people from Canada and the Netherlands walking around, and you can see them and talk to them. I will give you a small movie so you can get a better idea about how it looks like. This was filmed during the opening at Verraad some months ago. I don't know, these are quite dark images, but you will get a you'll get a picture of it. So people are walking around in the environment. Over here you see vooruit, and they can go in there. You can also see that there are other avatars over there. It could be that they're in Belgium at vooruit, but it could also be that there is a Dutch guy or a Canadian. The idea is within 2 years to get this environment also on the internet, but it will be done with another engine, because this is done with the famous game engine from Quake, with a lot of modifications done by it. But it's not possible to play this on the internet because your data, your content, and your engine is too heavy to download on a website. But we will look into this into the next years. A really important element is it's a really huge space, this virtual space, and you really need a critical amount of data, of elements to see and to visit, and a critical amount of people that are wandering around. Because what we see now is that there are only 6 avatars in these huge buildings walking around, and the data is also just elements that we put there over the last 2 years. So you really need a lot more of information before it gets interesting for your public. So I do think that it will not be our task to implement an element like this, but it will be the task of some major players like Xbox to make an environment where you can see cultural products, where you can meet other people who are interested in these environments. There must be a shortcut to go back to your presentation, I assume. So I'm almost at the end of my presentation. We won a prize last year with a project. And an important quote to me is that the jury said technology is used as an extension of the core business, that we did not see our project as just an ICT project, but a project that was carried out through the complete organization, and that we put our end users, the audience, the artists, in a central spot. So we think that the impact on cultural organizations will be major, and organizations should be prepared to reconsider their role and to look in another way to the people formerly known as their audience. So involve your creative consumers, involve them in your practice, in your way of you use culture. Also integration instead of division of real and virtual is an important element. And when you do all these things, we believe that you can really add some new public to your cultural place. Here on top you will find the address www.lulu.com, where you can download the book when you search for e-culture or VACF. I want to end my presentation with a quote of Charles Leadbeater, who said, "Innovation is neither a purely commercial nor a purely scientific process. It has to be seen as a social activity." So when you're all at the drink tonight, you can say, well, it's an innovation process that we're going through here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Wouter. Has anyone any questions? We'll wait and get a microphone up. Please.
Thank you. Okay. Do you hear me? Right now? It's perfect? Okay. Cameron Zacconi, working from the Agence Wallonne des Télécommunications, an agency from the Belgian government. In relation with your, let's say, request to get a new engine or a new place to deploy it within the internet, you mentioned Xbox, I suppose, for the Xbox Live from Microsoft, but don't you feel that other environment, like, for instance, Second Life or the alike, that kind of movement might be also a place to deploy that art, because they have engines and things like that, and that's a place where it might be interesting to put art, as there are others doing government stuff on those kind of words.
Mm-hmm.
So.
We've been looking into the idea of putting up a small environment on Second Life, where we can show our content also. But also over there we think that our as for that, we're too small to play a major role in that environment. We really believe that you need some other partners, and that you need a minimal mass of interesting data, interesting content. And also what is the second problem is when you want to make use of this data, you have to see that the quality of this data is quite good. And the second life versions that exist at the moment don't really allow high definition streaming and things like that.
Okay, so you mean that you need more content to be bigger. Just to say you a small remark, within the government, so the Walloon government, we had a very big project related to the future of e-government. And within that future of e-government, we already thought about 3D worlds and integrating the government stuff within those kind of other worlds. So there have content to put, and those content might be related to art because it's not only government, but it's also the communauté française, like you have the Vlaamse gemeenschap. So I think that there might be also some content to glue to get bigger.
Oh, it's true.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much, Wouter. Our second speaker this afternoon is stepped in at the very last minute because of the
Sorry.
of the speakers.
Perfect. No.
Wrong one, sorry.
Oops. No. Okay, there's this one. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be talking about a federated access to multimedia content provided through a portal which is developed by the University Carlos III in Madrid. For technical details, this is the lead developer of the software, so you can address all the questions directly to him, and I'll be happy to answer any other kinds of questions. Then, of course, yeah, fine, okay. So the need for such a portal arrived because of the requirements for live netcasting and streaming availability. What we've seen in recent years is that many people are providing content in terms of hardware, in terms of video and audio and all kinds of web pages like YouTube and any other kind of content providers. So we have on one side the authors of the content that need their content to be available on the internet, to be accessed by the users. And then, of course, a large set of consumers that want different types of content to be widely available on the internet and accessible from anywhere, basically. And in addition to that, they want to be informed when new content is available on various sites. So the obvious response to these kind of needs is to build a portal. And this has been done in various forms until now. People may remember the early Yahoo versions that allow you to search and find various types of information. But it's a little bit more difficult if you have to search for different types of content that may contain live streaming, it may contain podcasting, it may contain video on demand type of content. So the portal has to have a quite broad scope in its definition, but also users today are really much used to actually having no knowledge whatsoever about some software, just install it or just run it in their browser. So a plug and play feature for this portal is very important. And usually what we've seen until now, it's a set of common directories whereby content is added by hand into the directory by the content provider. The main problem with this kind of directory is their static nature, because you've created the directory, you've dreamed about a partition which at the moment when the directory is created may be correct, but then you may figure out that you might need to change somehow the partitioning. So how do you do that if everything is fixed? But of course, then there are all kinds of questions related to formats of the data to be stored somewhere, protocols for accessing the data, and also very important security and privacy considerations for the data that is being accessible in such a common directory. The other downside with this kind of approach is that participation in a common directory requires a very high effort, because staff has to maintain the directory. People have to actually edit by hand all the entries. And this goes not only for actually adding something to the portal, but also if a content provider asks you to remove something from the portal for various reasons, you have to do that by hand. It's one of the main problems that is being faced by the video access portals like YouTube and Google Video today. Requests from the actual content owners for various types of content to be removed because it was added by users that did not have the right to do so, but the users had the possibility to add the content because of the technology that empowered them to do so. The result of this type of approach based of a directory is a continuous rebuilding of these repositories. You have to translate the formats, to update them in order to be available through the latest technology for streaming, for video content, for whatever type of access that is provided. So in this respect, the common directory is almost automatically outdated with respect to the local sources that belong to the actual content providers. And also, I think this is from experience, we see that momentum for actually adding data or providing data through common directories decreases with time. In the beginning, people are very keen that the directory gives them an opportunity to put their data available online, but then once they see that the content is mainly static, and once they see the amount of work that is actually associated with providing that content online, people tend to sort of say, yeah, okay, so what? So, and they tend not to upload or update the directory. There are several other domains that were faced with a similar problem, and this problem was solved by introducing federations. So basically, a federation is a model that allows local content providers to pool their resources together and make them accessible from a centralized directory while maintaining ownership of the actual content and storing the content at the local sites, not in some kind of centralized part. From the point of view of a portal that is dedicated to video streaming and podcasting and this type of technologies, the best way to do it, it seems to be accessing these videos through a set of trusted links that are provided by the content providers. They store everything on their local sites, and then there is some portal that provides a set of links which are maintained always up to date. And then these links are available through the internet in one point of reference. Everybody knows this point of reference, and then they just go there and get this information. The other advantage is to maintain a total autonomy for the actual content owners and content providers through a federated repository of this type. So in this respect, a content owner can change the policy for providing their content at any time, because the access to the content is federated, but they have the repository, so the content itself, on their site, within their control. They also control the methods for making this content available, for storing it for longer time. They also control the interfaces through which this content is available. So in that respect, they could, for example, charge for accessing various types of content. And it also maintains the local visibility for their own people at their own premises through whatever kind of policy is needed. The federation also offers a common view of the information, because several sites may have different means of representing the information, and then if you try to access a directory on one side, it will have one type of interface. If you try to access it on another side, the interface would look different. Now, if you federate these access, then and what you have is links to various bits and pieces stored in these data repositories, you provide a very common view that is very helpful in accessing this information. And this common view can be enhanced for particular communities. The same content can be provided through one type of information that makes sense, for example, for people in arts and humanities, while a different type of information may be provided for people that are engineering students. I mean, in many applications today, we see a workflow that is designed by computer science or computer engineering students, but that has nothing to do with what people in arts and humanities are used to do. And the ways of searching for information, the ways of organizing the information are different in various communities. So through a federation, it's very easy to provide personalized access to information for a particular community. So one solution that allows this is the ARCA portal, which is developed at the University Carlos III in Madrid. ARCA, it's an acronym. It stands for Agregator RSS para la Comunidad Académica, and it happens to mean ARC in Spanish. It's also very nice because you have this biblical story with all these animals being put together in some kind of boat and then saved. So in that respect, you can think of content being put in one place and then being made easily accessible through in the sea of information that surrounds us through the web. And because now many companies face problems, if you are not in the first 2 or 3 pages of a Google search, it is very difficult to see that you exist. While if you are in a portal that is specialized, it's much easier for the content to be found and made available. The goals of the ARCA software are to harmonize and centralize all the information that is available about multimedia content. It was developed in particular with users from the Spanish academical community in view, but it's easily extendable, so it can be easily changed to adapt other types of users. The other main goal is to provide up-to-date information on the changes that happen to the content, and also changes related to schedules in each institution, and allow a large amount of flexibility for all the participating institutions, so they at their end can actually change the announcements about the availability of the content, about the new versions of video content or podcasts being made available online, and actually keep the ownership of these announcements. One thing which is at the basis of the architecture of ARCA is this RSS standard, really simple syndication, which is a way of describing multimedia information that is made available through web pages. And if I would make a comparison with email, because this is like a competition to RSS in that respect, if you are interested in the content of a video site, you can subscribe to a mailing list, and then the site would actually send you an email every time that there is a new content on that particular site. Compared to this, the RSS works in a much nicer way, whereby you just get a link to the content that is published by the site, and then a client under your own control goes and checks regularly, if you want, whether there are changes, whether there is new content. So you only get notifications when you want it. There is no way you get 1,000 emails a day for people uploading various versions of the same video because they've just made a small change in the portal. The portal is currently evaluated by Terena in the framework of the activities of support for the arts and humanities community, and is being used by 7 universities in the Red Iris community. The architecture of the portal is very simple. The system is divided into channels, and a channel represents simply a source of multimedia content. Every institution is associated with one or more channels depending on the type of content that that institution wants to provide. And each channel may contain a series of events that could be either live streaming or retransmissions of live streaming, so video on demand type content, or simply podcasts about various topics of interest. Each institution must generate all the data that describes the activity in their own channel, as well as the data for all the items that are transmitted through the channel, and this is described through RSS. From the technical point of view, ARCA uses RSS version 2 as a data exchange format. RSS version 2 is the more widespread currently today format for content syndication, and it's based on XML. It's very nice. You can describe all kinds of options, and one important thing is that you can add your own options. The wide availability of software that understands the RSS 2.0 format allows for collecting the data using off-the-shelf software. This software is known as RSS aggregators, and the validation is very simple. You need an XML browser that you need an XML validator that understands the RSS specification. So, and you can integrate this within the portal, so it is possible to guarantee that each participant is making a correct data export of their own content. The fact that RSS can be extended means that each participant can include additional information to its RSS description without affecting the overall system behavior. In this respect, for example, somebody could include latitude and longitude of their location in their RSS feed, and then you could actually browse the content on a geographical search and say what's going on in the Netherlands today, or what happened in Italy yesterday, and then you would get a list of events. Also, it's simple to add any kind of simple extension to overall system functionality in ARCA. So there are three formats that were defined for this portal. There is a direct format that is associated with live streaming. There is a video on demand format that is associated to video content that is stored in the database and then replayed several times afterwards. And there is a special type of content which is associated with podcasts. All the descriptions of the content are made using UTF-8 characters. This is very important, especially in a multilingual environment where people can use their own special characters that are associated to the language. In Spain, there are various characters. In the Eastern European countries that are various characters. My name, for example, has 3 special characters that are not in the standard Latin alphabet. So UTF-8 allows everybody to describe the content in their own language with the correct spelling. Right. So these are the 3 types of namespaces that are in use in ARCA, and of course new namespaces can be included as the system requirements evolve, because ARCA was developed as a very extensible framework. So the way the data is stored is that ARCA provides a database where RSS descriptions are collected at well-defined points associated with institutes that participate in the aggregator that periodically connects to these points and retrieves the information about updated content. The system consolidates everything into a single database, and through this database the information is later partitioned in channels and can be accessed by different means through the ARCA search and browsing facilities. The fact that everything sits in a database allows to develop very fast different views over the same data. So you have the same underlying information in the database, but then you can put an interface based on this content that is dedicated to arts and humanities, and at the same time you may have an interface that is more related to a workflow in computer science. This is an example of the topology of the deployment of ARCA in Red Iris today. So there is the ARCA database server and RSS aggregator that is updated every n hours. Then there is an ARCA portal here running on a user computer. You can see it's running in both Linux and Windows. It's just a web page. Or you can also use a standard RSS reader, which is any type of them which are widely available as open source. It works on the Mac as well, for the Mac lovers. And on the other side of the system, we have the universities and research centers that are actually providing the content using their own multimedia servers and, of course, the RSS cataloging and production systems. Currently, the portal supports different type of searching and browsing paradigms. So you can have simply a list of events, what happened. You can have a calendar view. You can query the metadata that is associated with an RSS feed for a particular type of content. And you can also browse different classifications which are currently dedicated to the Spanish research and education environment. There are many fields that can be used in searches. So you can search by the university name, by the type of content, by whatever the categories are in a classification. So for example, you can ask for all the video on demand that is available from the Polytechnic University of Catalonia, for example. The portal has built-in multilingual support. So the languages that are currently supported are Castilian and Catalan. And Diego Lopez said yesterday in the TFPR meeting that the English translation of the portal interface actually took about 1.5 days. And so it's not that much work. It can be easily translated in any other national language. And it should be noted that the UTF-8 support helps a lot here, that allows you to actually use the right words with the right spelling, so in order to not confuse the native speakers. So the ARCA portal offers a live creation of RSS for the queries. It's possible to subscribe to limit the queries that you are interested. So for example, if you are only interested in content that is generated in one of the engineering departments, then you can subscribe to that, and you are going to find to be announced only when that type of content is available. And one very nice thing is that it supports the direct playing of podcasts from the website, so that the portal can act as a universal podcast player, is iTunes friendly, so you can actually take the RSS podcasts, the RSS for the podcasts, and put them in your iTunes and download them into your iTunes device and go and see the podcasts sitting outside in the sun and drinking coffee. And of course, there is an interface for the administrators that allows to manage the data sources that are aggregated through the portal, and of course manage all the categories that are made available through the portal. From the technical point of view, the ARCA is based on open source software. So they use the Apache web server, then a little bit of PHP5 scripting, and MySQL database to store all the RSS descriptions. As I mentioned earlier, there are currently 7 institutions in Spain that are participating in the portal and providing content. Plus, the biggest Spanish virtual university is committed to come along in June this year. This means that from the actual about 700 items that are currently available through the website, the number of items will grow to about 70,000 items, just because this virtual university is going to have all their coursework collection available through the ARCA portal. There are 2 classifications of content in operation. One is based on the Spanish higher education directives, another one is based on UNESCO codes. And there are various other components available. So for example, statistics of use, how many times a certain content was accessed through the portal. That is developed by the University of Rey Juan Carlos in Madrid. Then there is a Joomla integration that developed through University Polytechnica of Madrid, and then an item builder for developed by the University of Cantabria. And in terms of actual future plans for the ARCA portal, one thing that needs to be done, and many people actually asked for, is a dynamic endpoint definition, because currently a definition of an endpoint is being done statically by the administrators of the portal. So if you just happen to have one event that you want to make available through the ARCA portal, currently you have to go through all these administrative steps to define it. So, but it's much more efficient if a certain set of users would be allowed to dynamically define endpoints for their creations. And then, yeah, also this is ad hoc creation for items. And then detailed statistics of use to be included in the administrator's database, plus support for groups of events while searching and browsing the portal, maybe a display of related items. So once you got a search and you've accessed one video type, so then you could get a list of related videos based on the keywords that were associated to that content, and possibly support for the new standard 8.1.0 in content syndication. This is more or less it about the technical description of ARCA. What I would like to show you now is the portal in operation. This is just a slide, but as the web was working at least about an hour ago, let's see if we can get right. So this is the current ARCA deployment at University Carlos III in Madrid, and I've changed the language in English. Excuse me. Then these are the categories of events that can be made available through the portal. So various event broadcasts, a video and multimedia, plus the channels. And then there are various ways of accessing this information. There is the calendar, and today it's a Monday, but there is nothing going on the 21st. We can have a look on what was available. So for example, on the 15th of May, there was a grid conference, and then you can click on that event and find more information about it. You can also go directly to the site that owns the content, and then you get, of course, a warning from ARCA that tells you that you are going to play using an external player. Okay, so it doesn't work here. That's fine. The other things are the various categories that are available through the portal. So you can go to humanities, and then there are various. Everything is grouped by universities. Can try to play this. Okay, but yeah. Okay, so I think this was more or less about the demo as well. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much. Has anyone any questions? I was interested to see the first item he brings up under Arts and Humanities when he goes to the session is a conference about grids. I know the grids are moving into Arts and Humanities. Sorry.
Can I comment on that? Because it's actually very interesting. In the last about 4 or 5 months, I was involved in a foresight study that is being done by Terena on the future of research networking, and I was involved in particular in this area of novel uses of networks in arts and humanities, and I've seen a lot of grid-related projects that are actually building infrastructures to do computational linguistics, all kinds of big text corpuses that are used for in the linguistics field, but also in history. There are large databases, and they need a lot of processing power to analyze the data. So I think, yes, grids and art and humanities, we are there, slowly, but...
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, can I just make, before, this is the last session of the afternoon here, so there are just a couple of comments. The opening ceremony this evening is at 7:30, 19:30 in the City Hall. Buses are from outside the centre here, back. And other than that, we're back in the conference centre tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So I'd just like to thank our two speakers, and most especially because they filled in for the missing two speakers, and apologies for people who may have come to see the two that were unfortunately not able to come. But so just thank you very much, our two speakers again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I didn't plan that.